Hi, everybody. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. It's an online platform for science and engineering professionals. The first offering of the platform is a public speaking course called Teach the Geek to Speak. To learn more about it, you can go to teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Today, my guest is Landi James, and she is a software engineer who is community minded. In addition to her work at the FDA, she founded a group called the DNAwesome STEM Club. I like the name. And it's the majority of the goal is to reach out to minority students. And I look forward to learning more about her interest in computers, her motivation for starting the club, and her future plans. Welcome to Teach the Geek Interviews, Landi.
Thank you so very much, Neil. Good to be here.
Wonderful. So the first question, I did a little bit of digging or a bit of research on you, and I saw that you got a degree in information technology. I'm curious to where that interest came from. What exactly does information and technology cover?
Well, when I started college, I was actually pre-law. I loved debating. I loved researching and defending facts. And I had one computer science class where I had to do a lot of programming, and I fell in love with programming. And so that was in my freshman year of undergrad. And ever since then, I've been in love with technology, specifically coding, specifically building systems. And so my undergrad degree, yes, computer information systems. I graduated from Georgia State, and then I moved on to get my master's in technology management. I would say that my interests definitely caused me to then move into other areas, because right now I'm still within the spectrum of STEM, but I'm working in different spaces right now with FDA. But yeah, it all started in freshman year, just one computer science class with an awesome computer science teacher, and the rest is history.
Well, I commend you for changing courses almost entirely. That's a big change to go from pre-law to computer science. That's
Yeah.
I remember I did a computer science course during my freshman year, and it was then that I realized that computer science or computer engineering, software engineering was not for me. I was
Oh,
I was terrible at it.
oh no.
And I didn't have the patience. So when you try to compile the code and it don't work, I'm just like,
Yes. Yes, but honestly, for me, like when you compile the code and it didn't work, that excited me. It gave me a challenge to fix. And that was the debugging part. That was the part that really sucked me in, because I could almost decompress in the middle of debugging. That was the absolute best part for me.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you better than me then. I hated that so much. I was like, I'm done with this shit.
I'm so sorry.
Let's see what mechanical or chemical engineering is saying, because
Well, that's not bad either. That's not bad either.
So so you mentioned you got a master's as well. What was your motivation for going for a master's?
So as I progressed in my career, I started as a coder, software engineer, was building systems. And then as a result of my career, I then moved into project management of managing technology and project teams. And so my master's, I decided to do technology management so that it could give me that management, the business side of it, as well as getting my project management professional certification, which helped me with the life cycles of developing systems. So things just kind of organically changed in that manner, where I used my experience as a developer to then move me into management, where I could then understand the various aspects of the project team. And so I think my work kind of pulled me in that direction. And then I sought a degree that would help support that, along with the certifications to go along.
Right. So when you finished school, you obviously you worked in software and in the software engineering, but then at some point you made some sort of changes to what you were doing. Was that something that was planned, or is that something that kind of just happened?
Interestingly enough, I had no plan. I literally had no plan. I think that the world of STEM back then, it was so broad and wide, specifically in the technology area where I was, that I was interested and open to being exposed to so many areas of it. And so as I grew and matured on the professional and the career side, I started finding other areas of technology that I was interested in. And so I had the opportunity at that time, we lived in Atlanta, and I had the opportunity to leave Atlanta and move to DC to start up a project management office managing GS-15 level federal employees that were also project managers building technology solutions. And so in starting that office up, I had a mentor who saw my work and what I did at that office. I was there for 3 years. And he invited me to then come to the Food and Drug Administration to start up their innovation program. And so from there, where I am right now, you can kind of see how it made sense with everything that I did, because I literally was on the investment side, the capital planning side of technology. I was on the security side of technology. I got like a really wide exposure to a lot of areas of technology. And so that allowed me then to place and build teams now for FDA to help move forward innovation. So yeah, it's an interesting thing that I really didn't have a plan. And quite honestly, in technology, because of how quickly it changes, you may not have a plan. Just kind of go with the industry so you can remain relevant and that you can have something to offer of value.
Yeah. Something that you mentioned kind of caught my ear. You said that you had a male mentor. And
Yes.
let's see, what's the best way to put this? Especially when, I guess, when women are moving up in ranks, I guess I get the sense that perhaps they'd be more comfortable having female mentors. Am I wrong about that? Or do you just take your mentors in any way or any packaging that they come in?
So I think it's important to have several mentors. I think that you don't just have one. So yeah, I had male mentors. I've had 4 mentors at one time. Male mentor, female mentor, a Caucasian female mentor, a Caucasian male mentor. I think that they all bring value in terms of where you want to go and what you want to do. So definitely that one particular mentor, he was a male, obviously. But I also had females, and depending on where I am in my career, I solicit mentorship based on who I think strategically can provide me with the advice that I need for where I am in my career. But definitely not just one mentor. You can have several, and they all focus on various things. Like for my female mentor, I was interested in her particularly as it came to being a woman in executive level status, with a family, managing work-life balance. Having a mentorship in that area was huge for me because my family is number one. And so being able to have someone to speak to that, that's why I had her, you know? But yeah, I would suggest several mentors, all who are different and give you a diverse perspectives based on where you want to do and where you want to go.
I don't know if you've ever heard this saying, you have to see it to believe it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Whenever I hear that saying, I'm always thinking that it's not as helpful as people might think it is. Because when I hear if there's not somebody that looks like you doing something that you want to do, that makes you think that you can't do it. Right. The fact that you had a female mentor that was doing work that in terms of, I guess, having that work-life balance and being able to manage work and children, I would hope that even if you didn't have that person, that wouldn't have stopped you from going for the positions that you eventually got to.
Right. No, you're absolutely correct. If I did not have that person, then I need to find my own way. It's not the absence of that person that would stop me from pursuing anything. The reason I would have that person, if they are available, is because they can teach me through experience where I wouldn't have to necessarily experience it for myself. But if no one is there, then I'm all for experiencing it for myself and learning from my mistakes and moving forward, and then being that mentor for someone behind. So yeah, the absence of that person doesn't mean I'm not pushing through. I'm still going to push through. It just will look differently.
Absolutely. I live in San Diego, and the Black population here is pretty low, maybe about 6%, if that. So a lot of the events that I go to, there's not a whole lot of Black people there. And right. There's a Black woman here also, that a friend of mine, and we go to a lot of the similar events. And she once told me that because there's so few Black people at these events, it makes her uncomfortable and not really interested in going to them. But I told her, I mean, if you're uncomfortable about going to events that could potentially benefit you and you're looking for Black people, especially here in San Diego, you're not going to a whole lot of events. So
Right.
I suggest you get over that discomfort as quickly as possible just for your own benefit.
Absolutely. No, it's important. I mean, if it's anything, in my undergrad, a lot of times I was the only Black female in the room, mostly white males in the room. And if I allowed a potential discomfort to even thought to even enter my mind, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. I would have given up. And that's why a lot of minorities in STEM give up, because they're uncomfortable. And particularly what I teach my kids in my STEM club is get used to being uncomfortable, get used to being the only face in the room. That just gives you an opportunity now to leave a mark wherever you are, that they're going to remember you because you were the only face that looked like that. And so once you switch your mentality to realize, you know what, this is now an opportunity for me to shine in a good way, an informed way, not just to shine, but in an informed, educated, respectful way, that this is your opportunity to do so. When you look at it as that, then you will never be in an uncomfortable space. It's like you walk into a room and you could be the only person there who looks like you, but with your mindset of, you know what, they will remember me when I leave. And if it's all based on having a positive impact, then you're doing exactly what you need to do, and then teach others to do the same thing.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, Landy. I mean,
Yeah.
I've told this to other people too, especially younger people. No matter where you go, even if there's people there that don't look like you, and you're the only person there that looks like you, wherever you're at is where you're supposed to be. So
Yeah.
just because you're a Black person going to a space, well, I'm not supposed to be, I'm uncomfortable. There's a lot
Yeah.
of times a lot of times it's in our own head. By the way,
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
it's not as if anybody there did anything to you. I mean,
Right.
we all know racism exists. There's
Yes.
bias exists. But a
Yeah.
lot of times we go into these spaces expecting things to happen, and then sometimes they don't. And just what you said, you've
Right.
had mentors of different colors, different genders, and different sexes, and they've all, I'm sure, been helpful. If not, they wouldn't have been your
Yeah.
mentors, and they wouldn't have been willing to help you.
Right.
So it's about being
Right.
open and not assuming the worst, I suppose.
Yes. Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you work at the FDA now. What type of work do you do there?
So I run the FDA Innovation Lab. We are a prototyping space where we review all emerging technologies for the agency. Anything that is new to the FDA environment comes through my lab. We test it out. We have human-centered design workshops in there to make sure that we pull the necessary stakeholders in. And we do that because we want FDA to get better at doing what it's supposed to do, its mission. And it's all geared toward the American public and making sure that our food and drugs remain safe and for us to take. So everything that comes through my lab, we do that. I've been there for 5 years now, and a lot of my time has been spent with really saturating FDA with the thought of innovation. If a lot of people know the federal government, we're like a huge beast that moves very slowly. And so innovation is pretty much real time. And so having to change the mindset of an environment that is used to moving slowly, you have to slowly change a mindset in a person, one person at a time. And so like my staff is aware that every time you reach and you touch someone, you need to leave them with the possibility of, I can make a change in where I am. And so a lot of like the first 3 years have been a lot of bringing that possibility into an individual's mind, so that when you're sitting at your desk and you say, it would be nice if I could do this, it would be nice if I could do that, that you don't allow that idea to just kind of just dwindle away. You come to the lab and you write it on our walls, because we can write on all the walls in the lab, and we talk it out and we look at the challenge and we provide solutions, several solutions, to see if it's something that is plausible for the agency. And that's why the space exists. So we do the thought leaders, we do the crowdsourcing, we do the ideation, we do innovation. It's a fun space. It looks a lot like the Apple Store, white walls everywhere, because we write and we brainstorm and we have fun on all challenges. So yeah, that's kind of what I do at FDA. It's a new space for them, a new concept for a lot of them, but we have fun. My team has fun introducing the concept of innovation and ideation to the agency, and that's what we've been doing for the past 5 years.
Oh, wow. So are you the first person to have that role at FDA?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you're basically the trailblazer or guinea pig.
Yes, yes.
Or
Yes, a lot
however
of
you want
our
to look at it.
branding.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun, and we have an awesome team there. They believe in the vision, and so we're all working in, you know, in a united front to make sure that innovation is achieved at FDA.
So I know, just like you said, the FDA is a large and slow moving
Yes.
entity, and you're working in a space which I'm assuming is meant to be quick and nimble.
Yep.
So
Yes.
trying to merge those two so that they work together, I'm sure has been quite a challenge. What has been, I guess, the number one strategy that you have used to, I guess, persuade an entity that typically is slow moving to act more quickly?
Right. Well, you kind of touched on it before, in that when you said, you know, you kind of walk into a room and you're okay with whatever, you know. We walk into many meetings and it's like, you have to be okay with rejection. This is what we are bringing, you know. You have to be okay with them saying possibly, no, I'm not ready for it. And it's okay if you're not ready for it, but allow me to help you step through. Like I said, 3 years of getting a mindset to change, right? The person that brought me into the agency to work on innovation, he had the vision and he was supportive. And so once you have someone in your upper line who is supportive and who will make things happen, that helps as well. But it was our feat to try and change the mindset of those that we were working with. A lot of people felt threatened. A lot of people didn't understand it, like new technologies. They're like, I don't want to do that. I'm resisting it, you know. But you just walk them slowly to their own pace and be okay with possibly rejection. Maybe it's not time, and it's okay. So when I come back around, and when you think that there is a need for me, we'll be here, and let's just work together on that front. So yeah, it's interesting. The biggest thing has been getting the staff okay with rejection, being able to translate failure and how you fail fast, so that you can recover and then have a win on the back end with a solution that works, and then having support from your upper management. So it's been a journey. I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot, and I wouldn't change a day of it.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm sure it's very helpful and frankly necessary to have somebody in upper management championing the efforts, because if not, then it's definitely difficult to convince people up in those upper echelons to adopt change, because oftentimes, well, that's probably the biggest issue, is just people are just resistant to change in general. Things have been working this well this far. Why we want to change anything? And
Exactly.
I commend you for taking on a role
Thank
that
you.
that basically is trying to bring about that change.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I really would like to learn more about the STEM club that you started. What was the motivation for it, and what exactly is it?
So DNAwesome STEM Club, DNAwesome, Awesome STEM Club, DNAwesome STEM Club. We are going into our fourth year. I have three daughters who are very interested in STEM. At the time, they were at a school that didn't have a really solid STEM footprint. And I had just came off of the heels of starting the STEM program at FDA. And so I was like, well, I did it for FDA, where we've seen about 1,500 students come through our labs, and be able to visit like 3D printing labs where we print prosthetics and stuff like that on campus. So having started that program where we saw X amount of students, I thought, well, maybe let's just see if I start like an after school program at my kids' school. And so my children were my motivation in that we started the after school program. We had 9 students that first year. We took them to a robotics competition. I hired an instructor. The instructor worked with the kids. We had engineering students from University of Maryland, working with the kids after school twice a week. And those 9 kids went to a robotics competition and placed second for robot design their first year on the floor. And so that was now a momentum for like, wait a minute, this is possible. We can do this. And so after that first year, I got interest from other schools saying that they wanted my program at their school. Now, that was not at all my intention when I started the STEM club, but I'm all for exposing our younger ages, K through 12, to STEM, and exposing them to the opportunities of scholarship and grants and just the careers that come out of STEM. That I was like, okay, well, if this is something that the schools want, then I'm all here for it. Let's do it. And so At the beginning of this school year, we had 3 schools. We went from 9 students literally to 45 students. And it grew at all the different schools. And, you know, it's something that we do more than just STEM. Sure, we take them through a full comprehensive science, technology, engineering, and mathematics after school curriculum, but we also teach them character building traits so they can know about citizenship and forgiveness and compassion and joy and peace and love, so that when they learn this STEM expertise, that they have the character now to not just keep it to themselves, but to give to their communities with that expertise. And so we do the citizenship because I want you to be community service minded so that you can now go into your communities and you can now pull the next generation. And so we layer the character side on top of the STEM to make sure that the kids that are coming out, that they're holistically ready, not just STEM, but being, yes, prepared for STEM and for scholarships that come their way, but kids that are ready and they have an eye for those who are less fortunate or for those who don't have opportunities that they have. So DNAwesome, the name means in your DNA, you were created to be awesome. Okay, in your DNA, you were genetically coded in excellence. And so my tagline is designed for excellence, because that's literally what we were designed for. We were designed for excellence. And we believe that when children believe that, then they start acting based on their creation. And so when they act on their creation, then they do things excellently and they expect excellence. And so you don't see them in the street then acting up and acting the fool, because they are doing things in excellence. And so that's kind of where DNAwesome STEM Club comes from.
Wonderful. So for the schools that have the DNAwesome Club, do those schools track the, I guess, the improvement of the students' science and math grades based on their involvement with the STEM Club?
Right, so 2 things. So because a lot of these schools, because we're so new, the trend data is not yet available for that, right? However, the schools are on board with being able to baseline out the student and then follow them through. I wouldn't necessarily look at the data as of yet, because a lot of the schools just started up this past school year or the school year before. But I told the schools, let's look at 3 to 5 year data and see what's really happening with the kids. What we do is, if a particular school has a need for, say, math enrichment, like if their kids aren't doing well in math, then we do offer the full STEM curriculum, but we infuse math throughout the year so that it would help those children to improve on their mathematics. Same thing with their science. If there's a need for science, then we infuse that throughout all of our STEM curricula throughout the year. And so we do that because we create that customized curriculum for that school, because we want to enhance what the school is doing. And there have been schools that have said, you know what, our students are really not doing well here. If you look at our test scores, they're really not doing well here. Then we customize based on what their needs are, and we provide that service so that the children, at least who are in the club, we can see whether or not they improve. But in terms of trending data, I wouldn't look at that data until like the 4th or 5th year of coming out of school, just to see where kids are in terms of that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when it comes to public speaking now, I guess we'll switch gears a bit. Is that something you've always been good at, or is that something you've had to get better at? And if so, how'd you get better at it?
So public speaking is interesting. I am naturally an extroverted person. So I am naturally the person that when you walk around, you know, I don't meet a stranger. Like, I talk to everyone. I say, hey, you know, I'm very sociable and I'm naturally extroverted. I think that helps with my public speaking, because I can get into a room of 10 people, or I can get into a room of 500 people, and I'm able to reach them all, because there's not a person that I meet. I'm not afraid of people, you know, and I feel like we can converse and have an awesome conversation just off of things that we may be interested in, you know, jointly interested in. So I wouldn't say that I was necessarily always good at public speaking. As a matter of fact, I think I'm still growing in it. But I would say that I'm not afraid of people. And because of my extroverted nature, that definitely helps. What have I learned? I've learned that there's always room for improvement. I've learned that you need to know your audience. I've learned several things as it relates to public speaking. I've learned the importance of posture when you get on a stage. If you are in a room of 500 individuals, how can you, this little person, fill that entire space? What do you do, to do that? What are you doing with your hands as you speak? Or what are you doing with your shoulders? What are you doing with how you're standing and how you're talking? Are you talking to that person who is in last row all the way to the back? Or do they feel like you're not even reaching them? How relevant are you in terms of your topic to who's sitting there? Are you prepared? Are you reading from the slides? I cannot stand I cannot stand it when people read from a slide. My philosophy is I can give you the slides afterwards. I can't give you what I'm presenting to you on stage. So while I may have a slide up, I'm going to talk around it. You can get that when I leave, but I'm going to talk around it. But if I'm reading from it, then there's really no need for me, But definitely making sure that you are reaching them, you are looking at them. If you don't want to look in someone's eyes, then look at their forehead, If you don't, you can look right over their heads. But little techniques that help you as you deliver to make sure that you are definitely penetrating and that you're leaving that positive impact of change that you came there to do.
I laugh when you mentioned the slides part, because that's a big annoyance of mine as well, because ultimately it's called public speaking, not public reading, right?
Yes, I can't with the slide reading. I will personally admit that if there is anyone who comes and they speak and they sit there giving a speech and they turn around, they start reading the slide, I immediately go to planning my week. Like, I'm no longer listening. I'm really no longer listening. What I'll do is I'll ask for the slides afterwards, because essentially what you've done is you're reading it. I don't need to use my time doing this right now. I'm just going to plan my week. I'm gonna plan my week.
You know what? You're absolutely. You can actually see it if you just look around. When people start reading the slides, you'll look around the audience. You'll see people on their phones.
Yes.
Wonder what I'm gonna have for lunch today.
Yes.
Yelp.
Yes. Let me plan my life.
I had Mexican yesterday, so I don't think I want that. Maybe Thai? No, I don't want noodles.
Precisely. That's exactly it. Yeah.
And you know what? Especially people that are in the STEM fields, I think we're notorious for it, because we'll pack our slides full of text and we'll just get up there and read them.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And the thing about it is, because a lot of times the topic areas of what we talk about, sometimes it can go over people's heads, so we have an additional challenge, especially if your audience is not a technical audience. You want to make sure that you can relate to them. You want to make sure that the information that you're giving, it is to their level and it aligns to how it can be a benefit to them. And a lot of times as STEM professionals, we miss that, just because we can understand it does not mean that someone else can. And it has nothing to do with ability or anything like that. It's just a matter of, we get into the weeds on things that people just don't, they just want to know that their phone is working. They don't care about how the message got to another person. Whereas we may want to break down to how it actually works. Other people may not care about that. And so if you have to give a talk that is really technical based to a crowd that is not technical, then bring it up to high level for them, and just show them how it aligns to them and how it presents a benefit. But to get into the weeds, that's something that we make mistakes on all the time, and people completely lose the point. Completely.
You're absolutely right. It goes back to knowing your audience. I mean, the whole idea for Teach the Geek to Speak, that whole course, it stemmed from my own struggles working as an engineer and having to give presentations in front of senior management, many of whom were non-technical. And just like you said, I wasn't taking that into account when I was putting those first few presentations together, and it definitely showed, because you would see people on their phones, you'd see people nodding off, falling asleep, you see people staring off into space sometimes, and then I get the same kind of questions that I thought I answered during the presentation, because I didn't present it in a way that they could take in. I was getting the questions. I was like, I'm wasting my time, I'm wasting their time. This time is just being wasted all around. So I gotta do better.
That is really an important skill, especially for STEM professionals. I would even say that early on in my career, that is what kind of catapulted me into being promoted, because my those on my team who are business minded, they recognized that I could translate for them. So I knew what the developer was doing, I knew what the team was doing, and I was then able to translate to their benefit, to their requirement. And they were like, so the minute they got that, they were like, okay, we need her around. We can't get rid of this one because she actually makes it make sense for us. And then in turn, translate back from them now to the team, to the project team. So I would definitely say that kind of helped catapult me early in my career, because I was able to do that translation piece. Once you're able to do that translation piece and people can understand you, because a lot of times the business people, they're the ones providing you with support, funding, and, all that good stuff. They need to understand what you're talking about, And so once you're able to get that going, then you really can't lose.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to be able to talk to the decision makers, because
Yeah.
ultimately they're the ones that say yes or no.
Yep.
So when it comes to putting your presentations together, do you have a process for that? And if so, what is it?
So I typically bulletize the information I will give. And a lot of times the information that I'm giving, it definitely points back to the overall purpose. So I just draft out talking points for myself. I don't use paragraphs at all because that encourages you to read, but I would have about 4 or 5 bullets that would remind me of things that I need to touch on while I speak. And so from those from that bulletized list, based on section, I then create my PowerPoint slides or my slides based off of that. I tend to go very high level on my slides. I don't put a lot of words on my slides. Some people like pictures that would allow you to drive a point home based off of the bullets that you have. So you'll find a lot of bullets, memory joggers for myself as I speak. Those would then translate to the slides at times, as well as pictures. But my slides are not heavy at all. You will not find a lot of words on my slides at all, depending on what I'm doing. If it is a quote, then I'll put the whole quote, but I won't read the quote. Even that I won't read, because they can read it for themselves. But I talk about why I included that quote. So my slides, they're light, they're bulletized, they have pictures, and I tend to make them very engaging. So it may be a slide with a question on it, and I'd ask the question and then have them think for a minute, and then we may have a discussion or not, depending on the size of the audience.
Yeah, I fully agree with trying to keep the number of, or to keeping the words on a slide to a minimum, because by doing so, it actually eliminates the option of people in the audience of reading your slides. Either they have to listen to you or they have to ignore you. It's one of the,
yes.
one or the other.
You are so right. You are so right. Yes.
So when it comes to giving presentations, do you ever get nervous? And if so, how do you deal with your nerves?
Yes, I get nervous all the time. How do I deal with my nerves? I've learned to turn my nervous energy into adrenaline to help me in the presentation. So a little bit of background, I'm a musician, so I sing, okay? And the nerves before singing, identical to the nerves before speaking. I'm a lot more comfortable with singing than I am with speaking. But I've learned through years of singing the ability to transform that nervous energy that some people may allow to kind of shut them down, translate that into the energy that will give you the adrenaline to really push through. Because if you know the information, you're going to be good, as long as you don't shut down. And you can translate it from shut down to adrenaline to push you through, then that's what you have to do. And that comes with practice, that comes with practice. And that comes with the confidence in that I know my material. So I can talk to you on any level because I know it.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that too. And a lot of times when I think about nervousness, I think that you're supposed to be nervous before you go out. If you're interested, or well, if you are, what's the best word to describe this? If you care about what the audience takes in from what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So if you don't care about the audience actually listening or taking in a message, then you're probably not as nervous. Right. As if, unless it was the opposite. Is there anything else that you want to talk about in terms of things that you're working on?
the things that I'm working on, you know, just constantly being in a posture of getting better. You know, we should always assume the posture of I'm still learning, you know. Myself, I have been toying with the idea of getting a PhD, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to do that. But even if it's not a PhD, being able to learn new things and having the drive and the desire to be well informed on a variety of subjects, I encourage everyone to do that. So that way, if you're on a panel discussion, if you're a keynote speaker, or if you're doing a workshop, you can speak to and involve various areas into your speech, into your workshop, that potentially could be of value to the person who is receiving your information. So I definitely tell people, hone your skill, you know, hone your craft. Make sure that you are constantly in a posture of learning, making sure that you are teachable. We never arrive anywhere. We never arrive. We're just getting better and better. And so if I were to leave you if I were to leave anyone with that, always maintain the posture of I can get better and I can learn from this mistake. I can always improve, always have that attitude. And then there's nothing that you won't be able to do.
I fully agree. How can people get into contact with you, Landi?
So my website, landijames.com, Landi James, JAMES.com. That's directly to me. That's my workshop, coaching, keynote speaking side of the business. And then if you're interested in having DNAwesome at your school, we are a nationwide STEM club, because we can package it so that it can go to any school in any location. But if you're interested in DNAwesome, then our website is www.DNAwesome.com, LandiJames.com or DNAwesome.com. You can find me on Instagram, LandiJames.inc, INC, or DNAwesome on Instagram, DNA STEM Club on Instagram. That's our social media.
Wonderful. Well, everybody, that marks the end of another episode of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. It's an online platform for science and engineering professionals. The first offering of the platform is a public speaking course called Teach the Geek to Speak. To learn more about it, you can go to teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Until next time, please take care. Thanks, Landi.
You're welcome. Thank you.